seconds.
Nice. And hi, chat room. Hold on one second. I'm going to bring you guys in just a second, and then the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program mega worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Well, welcome to the show, and we are... normally, I would say this is the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide, with 100% more Johnny Million, but we have 100% less Johnny Million this week because he has a thing. He has a thing. So he's doing the thing, and it's none of our business, quite frankly. We're not, we at HSRPM, we do not yuck anybody's yum. And, I mean, if there's anything that's consistent about this show, it's that and hashtag Rip Portland. I don't know if you know this, but I guess the cancer that is the destruction of Portland, Oregon, it's gone. If you had any plans to go there, you have any business or relatives there, I'm sorry to inform you that it has been a crater since, I'm going to go with July 1st, 2020, and it's not coming back. And apparently that has metastasized to the rest of the world. According to Donald Trump and his weird traveling roadshow of gripes that he's taking on the road, posing as a campaign, the country's dead now. Everything, don't look out your window. It's going to be too frightening. You can't handle it. Stay inside. Watch the smallest screen you can possibly find with him on it, and stare into it until the rapture comes or something along that line, whatever. Anyways, welcome to the show. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. If you're around the entertainment world, I salute you in the WGA strike and the possible SAG-AFTRA strike and the hello, I see you folks. Basically, there's a union movement going on right now to strike every union I'm a part of, and that's fascinating to me. And that's a good thing, because these days, while globalism, as everyone decries, in the world is shrinking in terms of supply chains, entertainment, because of its ease of transport these days, video being, you used to have to carry cans of film and put them on a boat, and that boat would take a week to get across the, parts of the ocean, and then it would deliver these months even sometimes. And then you could show it in a theater, but only people gathered. And then, of course, if you stacked them together and anybody smoked nearby, the whole theater went up. And so it's a lot easier today to both steal and appreciate great works of art. Unless, of course, I suppose, oh my gosh, Hal Vickery, thank you so much. Won't be here next week. He says out of town, so there's 2 weeks. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Much love to you. I hope you're having a good time. And I appreciate you swapping out with Johnny Million this week and doing whatever you're doing. The thing. Yes, Boston Brian, same link. Yep, you're good. See you at the half-hour point. Boston Brian is going to be joining us at the half-hour point this hour, and then, of course, Philip Ittner will be joining us from Ukraine at the top of the next hour. Lots to cover today. Now, we no doubt, when Boston Brian comes on, we will be talking about the Trump legal woes. Hey, anybody remember, I think it was like 17 years ago, when Trump was like indicted for a federal crime, and it was the first time a president had ever been indicted for such a thing, and there was like, I think there was like a whole 7 hours where the nation was wrapped with attention of like, oh, yeah, that's happening. And then they went right back to like, what are we going to order from, what do you want? You want to go have dinner? Yeah, because we got to eat, and then we're going to go do the other thing. Not the thing Johnny Million's doing, but the other thing. Remember, we got plans? You remember that? Do you guys remember any of that? It seems so long ago, and yet it was... it is here that we find ourselves as a country where there has been, and the outrage machine is cranked up. And I wanted to address something today. I'm going to call, I have named the gullibility matrix because gullibility industrial complex is just a little too clunky, although it's probably better. We'll work it out. I never claimed to be any kind of a, master hashtagger like Donald John Trump with the I borrowed crooked from Hillary and now I'm gonna just use it for Joe because I am out of ideas. We when over the we'll get to it in a minute. Over the last little bit though, with this the story around his legal issues, not the least of which is that two of his attorneys quit as soon as they saw the indictment, which I gotta say, I don't think that's a good sign. From a legal standpoint, when your attorney's like, we stand with our client, and our client is being, this is ridiculous, we've never seen anything, and this is the most ridiculous thing we've ever seen, and then they see the indictment and are like, oh, that. Oh, yeah, that's not, we can't, that's true, though. We can't do it. All right, check, please. That's, I think, probably one of the worst things you can have happen in terms of attorneys, if I'm not mistaken. Your Honor, my attorneys left today, citing the reason that they finally saw the evidence. When your attorney quits because they've seen the discovery and they're like, ugh, maybe it's not the justice system. Maybe there's not two standards. Maybe it's you. Maybe, just maybe everybody that you had in your cabinet that you thought were hashtag the best people, who all eventually, when they're out and about after they have spent inordinate amount of time with you in high pressure situations, seeing who you really are as a human being, that those people go on the news or do interviews or write books going, what an idiot. All right, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Maybe there is a giant Illuminati deep state establishment swamp conspiracy to shoot everyone that you used to have as a friend with a mind ray that warps them into the exact opposite of whatever you think friendship is. Maybe. All right. Maybe Jewish space lasers bounce off something and they ricochet into a DARPA machine that I guess goes through Alex Jones's head and is morphed into his worst nightmare of mind control, psyop, whatever that he believes other people are doing while he's basically doing that with his show. And then it hits everybody you know that used to like you, and all of a sudden they turn. Sure. Okay. Yes. On a point-to-point level, is it a probability? No. Is it a possibility? Only in a kind of Marvel multiverse kind of a sense. But I'm sure there's some universe where that's possible and it's happening. If you're gonna really extrapolate that out to the vast quantum possibilities of the universe, I would say about this particular universe that is not the case, and I think it might just be that Donald Trump is a jerk with no friends, and that there is a return on investment aspect of his personality where, like, yeah, he's a jerk and he's awful and he does this awful stuff and he's been credibly accused of sexual assault and he used to deny black people the right to rent in his buildings until the Justice Department came after him, and then he fought that and all this. But sure, he's stole the but I can make enough money off the other side of him that it's okay. That it's the you know what I mean? That it's like, all right, as long as I can make this much money off of being around the guy, or there's some end in where some goal I can get accomplished through this guy, I'll put up with a certain amount of it because the benefit, there's like a percentage benefit. It's like an investment versus return aspect of it in this course. And it used to be that, like the banks probably felt about Trump, that a lot of his supporters, both, and I'm not talking about the maggots, I'm talking about the actual Republicans and actual people who viewed themselves as conservative, who saw him as a vehicle by which they could deliver something for their constituents or their belief system or their failed ideology. But eventually they realized, oh yeah, nope, he's not that guy. And even the 2% return on this investment, or the 4% return, was an illusion. And now I'm in debt up to my keister, and I'm going to need an attorney. Hence MAGA meaning make attorneys get attorneys. And Trump having to sell this whole Magoo business, where he's got to apparently make America great over and over and over. Magoo. So, again, is there a chance that the Illuminati deep state establishment elites are conspiring through all tech companies, science, manufacturing, unions, non-unions, anybody who doesn't live in the villages in Florida, I suppose. They've all coordinated. They've met you somehow. Either Donald Trump has discovered a collection of allegedly incredibly influential organizations who are allegedly at each other's throats or in competition most of the time. And what the existence of Donald Trump pointed to was that, oh my God, they're all connected. There's this giant web where they're all in it together. It's there. And he exposed that with his existence. Or he's such a jerk, and I'm watching my language here. He's and such a danger to so many different people in so many different industries in so many different circumstances that they all just agree on that fact. They're not even working together. They're just like, yeah, he's a jerk. Yeah, I don't like him. I don't like that guy. He's created, and I maybe somebody should just go up to him as shallow as his ego is and tell him, you have unified the world. You've done it. You've gotten people together that heretofore were some of the most, like, they were at each other. They thought they had conflict with each other until they met you. Trump is effectively what Reagan was talking about when he brought up the idea of an alien invasion. If you'll recall, one point, Reagan brought up the idea that, one of the things about aliens landing on the planet is that they would kind of unify the whole world. It'd be humans against the alien. Donald Trump, I think we have proof, and I don't want to turn into Elvis Presley, but I hear rumors that Donald Trump is an alien. So, thank you very much. We'll be back right after this. It's Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. And the reason I bring this up is because the outrage industry and the gullibility matrix are conspiring together to make sure you don't go out and do anything. I mean, just normal things. We'll be back. You don't even have a passport, you son of a bitch. You're fired. Right. Hi, everybody. Hi, chat room. Love you guys. Crisis entrepreneurs. I like that phrase as well. But I don't think it's shocking as the gullibility matrix. And I will say, like, the gullibility industrial complex is kind of dickish. I think I will move to that. Anyways, we'll see. Johnny's got a thing. He's doing a thing. He's fine. He's just he had a previous engagement. He'll tell you all about it on his own. Elvis would know his plane is parked at Area 51. Uh-oh. So I'm drinking, for those, what are you having to drink? This is my golden tumbler. I got this in a gift box a long time ago, and I was like, I only have one of these. You can't, you either need a set or you're an idiot. And so I thought, I'll bring this down. This will be my cup for the show. It's just iced coffee, black. That's it. The gullibility paradigm. Well, the paradigm isn't the problem. It's a matrix. It's a group of people who sell that. Yeah. Let me hold on one second. By the way, subscribe, give a thumbs up, everybody. Share the show out if you would. Remind everybody that we're here. Let them know Boston Brian's going to be up with us in about 15 minutes.
All right, 60 seconds, Hal.
Thank you, sir. And I'm going to bring up this guy. Back in a second.
Ten seconds.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. Now, one of the reasons why there is the gullibility at industrial complex, and the reason I think that or I mean, you could also say the outrage industrial complex. There's an entire thing online, especially in the right, but they, obviously the far pinnings of the political sphere are, and they're not always left and right. There's, they're sort of all around. Like, you should see the libertarians freak out on Twitter recently. There's money to be made in pearl clutching, essentially, like and insisting that everyone else should as well, and that if you ever recognize actual progress, welcome to Chicago's Progressive Talk. If you ever actually recognize that progress, somehow you are ignoring the parts that are yet to be fixed. It's idiotic. It's a moronic concept. It is it is like saying to someone who is trying to improve their health and nutrition or their physical nature, or they were like somebody whose legs were broken in a car accident, finally getting out of bed and being in a walker, or taking their own first steps without it and going, I don't see you jogging. Where's the jogging coming? And like, who does that? We just got out of a pandemic that was worldwide, that in and of itself wiped away $20 trillion in U.S. economic activity. $20 trillion that was replaced with $6 trillion of stimulus. Right. You can't do that. I know. But if you listen to the Republicans, all we did was turn on the money printer and give all these poor idiots a bunch of money, and they're just throwing it around and screwing it up for all of us rich people. And continually, there seems to be this sort of static state of outrage and upset. And on our side of the aisle, there's a lot to crow about, a lot to be proud of, a lot of progress being made, and a lot of progress yet to be made. But the idea that, we've spent the last couple of years watching our dear friends over at TYT make incrementalism a four-letter word, which is, it takes a crowbar and by the way, eliminates some very useful letters in that word. Over the course of, the last few years, because in an all or nothing approach, giving any reasonable ground to compromise, especially in, ironically in a democracy, somehow means you lose street cred on the internet. It means you lose street cred in your messaging. It's as if you're giving up your ethics because and part of it is your own responsibility. If you say if this doesn't happen by this date, we're all dead, and what are your two options? Admit you were wrong, dovetail it and say this is a long-term process, and I was wrong to say that revolution in this one singular moment is the only thing that would salvage us, or keep pushing the goalpost, keep pushing the finish line out and going, yeah, it's about, we're in it right now. We're dying, we just don't know it. And that is applied to almost every political area. I'll give you an example. The economy right now. The U.S. economy, especially considering we just came out of COVID, and I will not permit people to pretend that did not happen. It is one of the stupidest things you can see in the economic sphere right now. Is a bunch of people going, well, this is different than, at 88, we had a similar thing there was a similar thing around 1973 that if you point to the amount of interest rates, like, dummy, we just came out of a worldwide pandemic. You are eliminating the largest number in the equation just because you like the habitual answer, because you benefited from that answer, the sum in the past. It's goofy. This week, the on word that with small regional banks being affected, inflation cooling on certain matrix for the first time, at a level that they felt comfortable with, the Fed decided to stop raising interest rates. They're going to put a pause in it and see how it works out. Some argue they should have done it a long time ago. Other people are like, it should be at 9%, and that would lower house costs and what, yada, yada. Okay. Meanwhile, though, much to the chagrin of the Republican Party, Wall Street, this is from Bloomberg, Wall Street rally wipes away a year of Fed-induced losses. The Fed raising the interest rate, effectively 5%, 5.25, I think at the end, was the idea is that if you raise it, it's going to collapse all the gains in the stock market by every little bit that you do, and then it will never recover. Like nobody will put their money in the stock market if they can get a return on cash or some nonsense. And by the way, that only applies if you've got hundreds of millions of dollars sitting around. And there are fewer of those people around than there used to be. And in this particular instance, retail investors are, again, that's you silly people and your Robinhood accounts and your E-Trade accounts, and you're actually talking to, you're taking hold of some investments and buying stock and things and going, I like that company. I think I'll own a piece of it. Which is available to individuals now in a way, you want to talk about democratization of the financial system, in a way that has never been available previous. If you were not a large institutional investor, you had zero impact on the market forever up until largely 2010, somewhere around there. And since then, that's been a steady gain, with those people being younger and younger and younger. And they create these Wall Street rallies because they know the economy's not going to be destroyed, and they're not going to let these the large institutional investors, many of them foreign, use the fear matrix of outrage and, oh God, the whole thing's coming crashing down, to drive the dip down as low as possible, and then stop talking about it and watch it slowly rise back up. It's a pump and dump scheme in reverse that the likes of Elon Musk have benefited from for many, many years. And it's becoming harder and harder to gauge because of these idiotic kids in their AMC stock. So, underneath this headline that I'm showing on infotainmentwars.com, don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel today. It really, really does help. It really does help. Also, twitch.tv/AlSparks. We're trying to keep our subscriptions up because they have a new rev share thing, and it only works if we have a bunch of subscribers. So please help. Anyways, underneath that big headline that I'm talking about, Goldman says markets too optimistic on pace of U.S. inflation drop. Defiant stock bulls are acting like the earnings recession is a hoax. That's the story. Hold on one second. I think oh yeah, there it is. That's the story hidden inside. Hey, give me one second, Brian. I'm going to mute you till we get to the break. That's the story that I think is more valuable to you as a person than the media narrative that you'll see. And the other example I will give in the last couple minutes, and again, Boston Brian from the general Boston area, but also from Midas Touch and his many videos, and we'll share some of that talk with you when you come back after the break, is waiting in the wings. One of the other stories where this applies, where the overlying story, the people who want the story to fit their sales pitch, and the only sales pitch is, oh my God, the end is nigh, is the story of Title 42, which again, not to crow too loudly about, and I don't think that's even possible if you guys know me, I was absolutely right about. I told everybody for a very long time that the reason we were having a higher number of border crossings is because Title 42 did not punish people for crossing the border multiple times. Under Title 8 and under the regular order of immigration law, if you apply for asylum and you're rejected, you can't apply again for a long time. If you try to come across the border illegally, your asylum claim will never be seen. And if you try to do it as an economic migrant, they will kick you out, and it will impact your ability to have a visa in the future. So there are reasons to do it legally. Under Title 42, there were none. They just caught you, put you in Mexico. Caught you, put you back in Mexico. Caught you, and it benefited the Republicans in two distinct ways. It created the illusion of 5 times as many people crossing the border as there actually was, so that Donald Trump and his ilk could say it's an invasion of people across the southern border, and the Democrats want that. They want to get rid of Title 42. They want to let people get their asylum claims heard. Well, once you do that, the numbers go way down. But if you don't allow that, you keep Title 42 in place, the illusion of a ginormous wave of people is there for them to demonize and scare their voters with on the regular. And the result was, as I have said many, many times, and everybody's going, oh, as soon as Title 42 ends, prepare yourself. 10,000 people a day storming across at every port of entry and in between. Suddenly, every person from South America was on a weight loss plan so they could slide between the slats in Donald Trump's slat fence just to take advantage of the end of Title 42. It's going to be a stampede. It's an invasion. They're coming across. And what happened? Exactly what I told you would happen. One person gets one asylum claim, one person gets one attempt to cross, and then that has impact. They're either let in because they deserve it or pushed out because they don't. And the numbers dropped precipitously. And I love this title, and we got to go to break, but this is from NBC News, and I love this title. This is from June 2nd. This is just recent. The number of migrants crossing the border has hit its lowest point since Biden took office. By the way, and that was pre-vaccine. That was still 2020 COVID numbers that Trump likes to brag about. Here are 4 reasons why there was no post-Title 42 surge. And then the subheading is gorgeous. Then we'll take a break, and we're going to come back with Boston Brian. Experts predicted a huge influx of migrants when the Title 42 COVID ban ended in May. Instead, crossings have hit new lows for a number of reasons. Some of them temporary. Some of them. Experts. So, okay, granted, I'm not an expert. But what does the right tell you about the experts when it comes to, vaccines, for example? All of a sudden, experts. They're experts now. The elites. What were the elites telling us about what would happen after Title 42? And what did I tell you because I can read? We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide. We'll be back with Boston Brian right after this. I'm going to copy that, and I'll get you in here real quick there. How you doing, my friend?
Mic check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
You sound good. Sounds solid. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'll take this out, and then put that in, and then I get you in here, and then there's this. Get in there. Quit it. Okay. Paste. Okay. There he is. Okay, excellent. And then we will transition, bring you over there. Hey, look at that. I still have my morning graphic up. It's so pitiful. I've got to get it together.
Been a busy week.
Yeah, tell me about it. Good Lord. All right. Oh, I see. I've got to turn off the studio mode before I can affect that. Yeah, it's been a bit crazy just because, and again, I feel like it's this. We're watching a quicker die cycle on all of these, on all the talking points, all the storylines. All of them are like, they have like a fall off that's like that. And I think this should work, by the way, yeah, there you go. So this is
still a little worried about the attention span of people and how
we'll talk
dedicated
about that.
They really are.
Sure. We'll talk about that. Absolutely. Hold on a second, and I'll bring you up, and you can see the chat rooms in there as well.
Shout out to some dude to remind me that it's radio and that I can't swear.
Yeah, so. I'll do that. I'll bring it up.
Thank you so much, because I was about to rip Trump up and not.
It's very yes. It's a tough one. Chicago, ride the button. It might be hot because of Boston Brian.
Just get ready to be like, no swearing, please. We only get 3 of those.
We only get 3.
I won't do it, and I promise not to interrupt. In the last time with the delay, it's a little tough to know when you're ending and I should pick up. So
yeah, no worries. I'll also I'll tone my voice so that we have a taper. It'll help.
Well, the more you talk to somebody, the more you can read and understand when they're finishing their thought, and when you can hop in.
Absolutely.
So hopefully, the more we do this, the smoother it'll get.
That's right. And by the way, let me know you hear Chicago. Did you hear?
I heard him say, yep, I heard him.
All right, 10 seconds, guys.
Thank you. Let's see hold on. Yeah, we'll keep that in there. Yeah. You got to be careful what people say.
Dump.
You're locked
They
in
call
to
them
the Hal
dumps.
Sparks
Big,
Radio
massive
Program,
dumps.
Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. Joining us right now is our dear friend Boston Brian from the Midas Touch Network and his own videos. He even still does TikTok. I'm trying to talk him down, but we'll work it. We'll get him over to YouTube Reels and Instagram or something like that. We'll pick it up. We just want to make sure his message grows, and that's the important thing. How are you, brother? Welcome.
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I, don't let, I know as a Chicagoan, that the Boston accent, much like the hardcore Chicago accent, makes people a little nervous. You're going to rip a swear word on broadcast radio, but people know that you got a handle on it. All right. So this is it's been a fascinating week for me because one of my nemeses in the media world, beyond the regulars, beyond the absolute outrage, the end times marketing team that is everybody from, Glenn Beck to Alex Jones to Russell Brand to all like that whole Tucker Carlson, all that kind of stuff. The idea is that there's a big them out there, and the big them is working with everybody that ain't you. And that is an enormous myth to have to maintain. When in reality, I think, and this is, I'm curious about this because people, I think probably because you're from Boston, because your accent, they kind of almost expect, like my friends who have a Southern accent, they expect them to be conservative or rough around the edges or
Right.
especially like anti-gay or something like that, that there's just and then when they start talking, they're like, oh yeah, no, okay, no, that's not true at all. Are you finding that you have more surprise camaraderie than you might have thought about these ideas?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I know you fight with TikTok. I watch you every day, so I know you're not hip on the TikTok. But honestly, that's what helped me grow to even be able to talk to you right now. If I didn't have a TikTok, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. So
Understood.
I feel very blessed to have the 200,000 followers that I have on there and to be able to get the message out to people. I use that, but you're right. I think a lot of people, when they first see me, they expect a conservative mindset to come out, or some bigotry, or some anti-Sem, whatever it is, you know what I mean? And then when the liberal stuff comes out, and I just want to help people that are in need, and maybe put a roof over some people's heads that are sleeping on the street, and give everybody some health care because everybody deserves to live a nice full life. Yeah. Ridiculous things like that.
I know.
So it's just,
by the way,
that's
shame on you.
Some of the awards,
shame on
I'm
you.
trying to figure out what the hell I'm saying a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has helped. Very much so. It has.
That's good. And I think also there's an inversion, I think, of the expectation of who you're talking to, and there's a bunch of people, I think, in the right wing side of things where they assume that if they're sitting at the right counter with the right Southern accent, and the person next to them sounds like them, or maybe even wear the same sports team shirt as that they can kind of rattle off some bigoted garbage. And that person next to them will go, yeah, I hear you. And when they don't, I think that's the root of a lot of the freak out that you see amongst the maggots. And it's why they have to go to Trump rallies. It's why they have to follow him everywhere. Because if we were truly inundated with people who were as in deep in this maggot kind of mentality, they wouldn't have to travel. They could just have little Trump parties, like they're watching, like the show Lost or Walking Dead or something from home. We have our Trump parties at the house because we don't have to drive all the way to Arizona or go to 90 Trump rallies to feel like we have some sense of camaraderie in the world.
Well, it's amazing to me that people still don't recognize, and I know some people do that. It's not, when Trump's doing these rallies, it's not different people from that area all going to the, they're all happy to see him. It's literally the same groups of people at every rally, and the people that he pays to stand behind him, and the what is it, the fourth row ladies or the second row ladies,
the front row Joes. He literally, and the disappointment and excitement that he vacillates between, I have recurring fans. Oh my God, they're all the same people. Oh,
and he loves talking about how much they spend to get there. How much they spend to travel, and how much they're spending on, where they're lodging.
He does complain that he doesn't get a piece of it. That's the thing. You could tell he wishes he was he's looking at his plane and going, let's see, I could fly these people here and charge them and make money on them coming to see my rallies, but then I'd have to let them on my plane, and they'd stink it up worse than it already is. It already smells like fish delight and feet.
I'm sure I could fit one more gold toilet on this plane somehow.
Right. So let's grab, and we're, we got about 5 minutes and we take a break, and then we got another segment after that. And I want to see what your kind of driving force issues that really motivate you are right now, that you really feel like there's a solution out there that maybe people aren't seeing, or that you want to drive people in their recognition towards a problem, that they may not know how to handle or what have you. Like your main focus when you're talking to your audience, what's your goal in bringing them to, what are the prime issues?
Is calling out the fascism, the fascistic tactics that are being used, the repetitive nature of saying lies over and over and over and over again to get people to believe them. I mean, the way that, it's almost everything is fought in the court of public opinion instead of the court of law. So that's what Trump's doing right now. He's sending out all his henchmen, all his family mates to the politics as much as we are. They got stuff to worry about in their lives. They're not doing what we do here. So you can almost do it too much and turn them off to it, and they just say, screw it, I don't care about anything. So you're gonna have to walk a fine line of, not being too.
You gotta entertain them while you're doing
dramatic, but still get their attention and let them realize, like, listen, I know it sounds weird to say that stuff that was happening in World War II is happening now in our country, like as we speak. And we're not talking about. Obviously, we're not talking about the same exact stuff. What's the line? History never repeats, but it rhymes. So it's not going to be the same exact stuff that you saw, but it's the same tactics. It's the same playbook. It's just being used in 2023, and this is the outcome. I mean, that's just. I mean, my focus is to bring attention to that and let everybody know that Democrats are not the demons. We're not all just crazy liberals that want to take your guns away. Liberals own weapons too. We like our Second Amendment. We love the Constitution. We want to live by the Constitution, which is why we want to hold Donald Trump accountable for the crimes that he committed. Right. Because that's the law that we live by. And it's crazy when you see a whole political party that claims to be the party of law and rule, just totally throw that in the trash.
Well, and I find it particularly fascinating. I'm sure you see this a bunch too. But the idea that their complaint is there's a two-tier justice system, when indeed Donald Trump has benefited from what little two-tier justice system exists in this world, which is that very rich and very connected and politically advantageous clients always will get, the best lawyer until you lose them. But then, of course, the best point on the docket, they can almost judge shop all the things that Epstein did. Trump is seemingly almost complaining he can't do now, which is the idea. He's always benefited from a two-tier justice system, that the regular schmoes, we have to just deal with what we deal with, and he gets to, he gets the benefit of a lot more money, a lot more pushback, and a lot more freedom than other people, because there was a group of people who were facing espionage charges, almost I think everybody who's faced these espionage charges in the past had to surrender their passport. Trump didn't have to, for example. Really simple. Didn't have to surrender his passport. Now, he wouldn't have to give up he wouldn't need his passport to campaign for president. He wouldn't. So the idea that it's election interference if you took it away is a little bit silly. But he certainly is a flight risk. I don't think he ever will, because I think, he's deluded enough to stick around. But that idea that he benefits from the double standard.
Well, they're playing off the fact that, the left has been talking about a two-tiered justice system for a long time, right? So they're now taking that and using that against us, when, like, a lot of the stuff that Republicans do, there's a sliver of truth in there somewhere, right? There's always a sliver of truth to get you hooked on, where you can look up something, you can Google something, and it does say that. But what you don't do is read around the edges and read the 4th and 5th and 6th paragraph on the story to figure out actually what's going on. Because a lot of the times that's where the information is hidden. You'll get the outrageous headline. The next paragraph is just giving you what's going on. And then the next 4.
Yeah, the 3rd, 5th, or 7th, depending on whether or not you can tell it'll be the 3rd paragraph in a regular written, like New York Times kind of thing. If the pictures in your newspaper are in color, it'll be paragraph 5 or 7. And that's only because they divide the paragraphs into smaller bite-sized pieces because that's what the kind of audience they have. We're going to take a break. And while we're in the break, tell everybody your Twitter handle real quick.
It's at Midas Brian 23 or at Boston Brian. So, I mean, I still don't know how Twitter works. There's two of them. YouTube's the same way. I have two names. They search them. You can find.
If you search for Boston Brian, you'll pick up both of those and the like.
And you can find my videos on Midas Touch as well.
There you go. We'll be back right after this with more of Boston Brian, and then Philip Ittner will be joining us in the top of the next hour. Biden is going to be focusing on the economy in his 2024 campaign, and not the indictments around Trump, which freaks out Republicans. We'll be back. There's I find this amazing. I'll show you. This is Bloomberg.
How am I doing, Coach, real quick? I'm not talking
You're
over
doing
you.
great.
Right,
no,
good.
you're doing great. Totally good. This is Bloomberg is mad at Biden.
Pardon me while I get close to read.
Yeah, that's okay. It's Biden to counter Trump by focusing on economy, not indictments. President to tout economic growth, jobs market, 2024 kickoff. Biden ramping up political activities with debt crisis over. The tooth grind going on over at Bloomberg is hilarious, because while Bloomberg himself owns the place and he's sort of a liberal-ish, leaning billionaire, that as much as you can think in those terms. I don't know. I can't imagine to wrap my head around that thought form. Although if anybody wants to give me $1 billion, I would be lovely. But the general thought, the paper itself, is very aware they're benefiting from the financial, but the Biden economy a lot, and they're mad about it because it kind of goes against, as far as government stimulus, as far as ever since the 15% tax on businesses over $1 billion being a standard that was coming in, they were writing that into. Thank you. They were writing that into the future expectation of businesses, and they were like, this is going to drive everything down into the gutter. We're going to be at like 19,000 on the stock market in months.
I feel like they're losing talking points more.
They are. It's a talking points graveyard over there. That's right.
Make attorneys go away. That's what MAGA stands for. They're just fleeing.
Right.
They're just running.
Shoo. Right. Yeah. Here, I'll show. That was this Wall Street rally thing I was showing earlier. Wipes away a year of Fed-induced losses. Like, they were like, okay, it'll go up, but unless they start clawing them back, we're never gonna. And this is what they're up against. The conversation with Henry Kissinger 100 years back.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
We were just talking macroeconomics during the break, because it's what we do in our free time. And I'm here with Boston Brian. And so, Brian, the Midas Touch guys are doing great work. They're on it. They're covering a lot of this stuff. And I think they found a magic spot for themselves in all of this craziness in Trump world, because they all have, I think almost everybody in that family has a legal background. And so with Trump's problems being front and center in all of this, and him, it's almost, again, it's the invention of the axle, not the wheel. If everybody had the wheel and they're rolling stuff around and you're the guy who finally comes around, okay, there's two wheels now. What if I connect them? That guy did very well. And so the premise of this is that, like, the timing has been really good for people who want to put some meat on the bone about what's wrong with Republican economic theory, Republican libertarian philosophy, Republican like bootstrap mythology in terms of this whole going after Obama for, when he said you didn't build that, when he's talking about roads and bridges, which is exactly true.
And then he did it in a tan suit.
Right. I'm still horrified. You had to bring it up, didn't you? Now, great. Now I'm seeing spots. The fascinating part for me is that Elon Musk, who's one of their big heroes, who is the new kind of Trump adjacent hero of this group, is both heretical because he's not free speeching them enough to be anti-Semitic all the time, every day or something on Twitter, but also Tesla doesn't exist without the 2008 rescue plan that Obama put in place to guarantee that electric cars got a tow.
There's no way.
There is no situation where Elon Musk is a financial success or an engineering success or any of the mythologies of successes around him without that stimulus package from the Obama administration. And so I think, when Biden doesn't want to meet with him or whatever, and he's like, how dare he? I'm the most important whatever. And you're like, dude, you were a jerk to Obama, and you wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for him. Why would I meet with you? What?
He makes it seem like he's the one down in the basement with the lab coat on, with the wrenches, and the tools, and the computer. Like, come on, he delegates Tesla jobs to people that actually know what they're doing, and then he takes the credit for it.
Exactly. He bought Tesla effectively like as an angel investor on two guys that had done it, and then named himself chief engineer of SpaceX after government contracts were done. None of the engineering is his. None of it. Not a touch. Like, and at best he's like, what if we could just get him back? Work on that. And he's spending taxpayer money to do it largely. So the idea that these guys chase around these mythological, ubermenches is I think, maybe that's the hardest thing to shake maggots loose from, and why they think we worship Obama and we worship Biden and we worship anybody that we just appreciate as doing a decent job.
Pure projection, because that's the way they feel about their leaders and their dear Fuhrer that they love so much. And now they think, well, because I feel this way about Trump or whoever, they must feel the same way about Obama or Biden or Clinton or whoever. You know what I mean? So everything they say is pure projection. It's unbelievable. I mean, if you were looking at the Trump family responses, they were going around talking about, everything they say is what they do. It's unbelievable. You got Laura Trump calling for the total dismantlement of the judicial system in the United States because we're trying to hold Donald Trump accountable for taking classified documents that he admits to having himself. He's on tape. We got pictures. What else? I don't see what you need.
But excuse me, Brian, if I may, there's 3 years ago, during the Trump administration, a whistleblower who was paid tens of thousands of dollars, apparently over a period of God knows what kind of time, might have all happened at once, we don't know, told a story about a guy he knows that talked to a guy who has tapes of, that guy's,
and what happened?
No one knows where he is, but he's got tapes of Biden taking a bribe to apparently, and stop me if I've screwed this up, and maybe you can help me walk through this. Apparently, this guy bribed Biden to get the prosecutor that wasn't prosecuting him fired and replace him with the prosecutor that did prosecute him. I don't think this guy understands what bribery is for. I think this is more like S&M. I think this guy's, it's like those Wall Street guys that go to a dominatrix dungeon just to be punished inside. Like, here's $5 million, prosecute me. I deserve it, I'm making too much money.
Well, it's kind of like your China argument. Okay, if China gives Biden so much money, what are they getting in return? Because Joe Biden, in my opinion, from what I've seen in actual legislation, has done more to decouple the United States from China economically, any way you can think of, than any other president since I started getting involved in politics.
Since before Nixon.
I'd like to know what you think China is receiving in return. What is their benefit? The balloon? That's what Joe Biden, he got millions of dollars, and he said, okay, you can fly a balloon for a couple days over the U.S. that we already, made sure that it couldn't work before it reached our shores.
Remember, he got $5 million from this missing dude.
It changes every time I hear it.
Yeah, there's $1 billion from China. Right.
It's like how much the informant got. It went from $50,000 he was paid to $100,000 to now he's getting $200,000.
Now he's a six figure. So he was paid six. He was an informant for multiple years, and then he got paid six figures. So when did that? I think the big question is, when did he get paid the biggest chunk of money? Because I'm gonna guess that it was during the Trump administration where they were paying this like, find me an informant and pay him, find somebody we'll throw $100K at him. but as an informant. We'll budget it through the FBI. Chris Ray's, my dude now, and
Find me
we'll throw some money.
11,780 votes, please.
That's
In
right.
this.
Yeah, we'll give him $1 for every $1 for every vote that I missed in Georgia. We'll give him $10. We'll give him $110,790, and then whatever. And then ultimately, they come out last week. Comer and all them are like, okay, we know about Ukraine, we know about China. We know, which we don't, by the way. It's garbage. But we know about Romania, which, whatever. Again, a myth they threw around for a while, didn't stick because nobody cares about Romania because that's where, they're prosecuting Andrew Tate right now, so nobody knows how to feel about that. And on the right, and then they go, it's a whole new country you never heard of. This is new. Never even heard this before. Turns out to be Ukraine. Turns out to be the Viktor Shokin firing of the prosecutor, which was the Biden did under the instruction from his boss, the President of the United States, the Congress of the United States, the EU, and the IMF. The IMF, like how Biden was supposed to be withholding $1 billion to get this prosecutor fired. The IMF threatened to withhold $80 billion for the same thing, and it didn't happen. Like they needed the U.S. to go, no, this is cash in the barrel. We're on the big, and if we pull it, the IMF will pull right now. So it'll go from $1 billion to $81 billion tonight, and that's why they shifted.
How many chances do you think Republicans give James Comer? Like, how many times can he come out and stand in front of the camera with not only, verifying his last accusation, but also coming out with another accusation every single press conference? It's like, whoa. You still haven't verified the last. Like, can we go to the first one you said?
Yeah,
like,
we're 4 countries ago. It's well, to some degree, since they are now the party of Gish Gallop, I don't know that they ever expected to pan out. And this has been the methodology of the Trump administration. He knows that he's in office because James Comey came up and said there's maybe more there about the Hillary Clinton emails and we should take another look. And he looked at it materially. He saw the polling. He knew he was going to lose. And then that thing gave him a wedge issue that allowed him, as an October surprise, to get the tailwind to win the Electoral College in a couple places, not the popular vote. Still lost by 3 million votes. And so he's been trying to recreate that ever since. And so his underlings, Comer, Jim Jordan, their methodology is to recreate smaller versions of that. We don't need the same thing with the Zelensky phone call. I don't need the investigation to actually result in anything. I just need the stink of an investigation to be on him during the campaign part of it, both to play down the actual charges against me and to cover for, and to, soften support for them. That'll be it. And you see it in the whataboutism all over the place. That's what the goal of whataboutism is. Because again, raising the criminality of a small thing to equaling the big thing does not make it lower the chances that the small thing will happen. It makes the worst thing seem less important. We see this with like sexual harassment versus rape and sexual assault. When the more they are equated, the harder it is to actually go after the rapists and the sexual assaulters. And that's why the Trumps of the world, the Epsteins of the world like that kind of stuff. You have to distinguish between these two things. And again, the lesser of two evils, between a pickpocket and a serial killer. Technically, the pickpocket is the lesser of two evils.
The Republicans right now on that committee, and a bunch of the committees actually, are literally just working for Fox News clips, for clips they can put on Twitter, for anything that will catch that 2 to 3 minute clip that everybody will watch. That they don't read the headlines afterwards. They're not going to go pick up a paper and read the full story. They're going to see Joe Biden gets so much money from so and so or whatever. You know what I mean? So the more times, and again, that tactic inherently goes back to how they used it in history to just repeat lies over and over and over and over again. And eventually it's going to stick with some of the people that don't do their due diligence. You know what I mean? It's just, that's what happens. Whether or not it's a small group in our country, obviously it's a big enough group to cause some trouble. So it's enough that we need to recognize as a problem and recognize the tactics that they use and then figure out how we can, combat those tactics, basically.
Yeah, well, and and again, I do think we're at the tail end of the show, and I want to remind everybody to follow Boston Brian on Twitter, and if you do TikTok, only do his channel. Only that's all you're allowed to do. I'll give you special dispensation for one channel. But I think it's abundantly clear that I do think you're right, and that eventually there's a gullibility limit that everybody has. And I don't know if it'll mean that they have to go find some bigger lie elsewhere. That's what the QAnon folks tended to do. Or if they just stop playing the game. They just drop out. The maggots that decided to vote because it was just Trump, only Trump, and just eventually just go, you know what, if it's not going to be him and I don't like him anymore, I don't do it at all. And that's what they saw happen. That's why we have the Senate. And that's what they're afraid of in next year specifically. So thanks, Boston Brian, for being with us. I'm glad you had your inaugural visit.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
Can I just say one thing? If I were to get pulled over for a DUI tonight, I'm not getting out of it by saying Hillary's emails or Bill Clinton's socks. Doesn't matter. Your crime is your crime. Doesn't matter what happened to somebody else.
That's right.
Thank you for having me, Al. I appreciate it. Phil, love your work, buddy.
Excellent. All right. Cheers, Boston Brian. We'll see you later. Everybody follow him, blah, blah, blah. And we'll be back right after this. I love him. Boston Brian, you don't have to drop out that fast. We can say goodbye in the break and transition over softly. We don't have, I'm not jettisoning you right out of the gate. So thanks for being there, buddy. And then give me 1 second. I'm going to bring in.
Yeah, if you're still there, Brian, if you ever want to do something together, just drop me a line, DM me, and we'll have a chat.
There we go. And paste. Okay. And we'll drop this.
I got a good interview lined up tomorrow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Guy who's been. It's not strictly Ukraine, it's more Russia West conflict stuff. He's back in the States.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny not with us today?
No, he's not with us today, so he's got a thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hold on, I gotta shrink this down, fit you in there. Excellent. And we'll go back to this one, make sure you fit in there okay, and we're good. And because you guys have different size frames. There we go.
Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff.
I can change if you want.
No, it's okay. Fear not.
Okay.
And check for me.
Check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Excellent. Cool. And I'm going to bring you over. There you are. Ta-da. And chat room says hi. There you go. And then here's the chat room.
Hello.
Just fixing my screens. And it's good stuff. And ta-da. There we go. Ta-da. Yes, Boston Brian is Dem Boston Brian in the chat room for all our chat friends all over the place. So if you want to say hi, good job, buddy.
I love his analysis of, I mean, he's spot on about all things domestic. Brian, if you want to do something international, you want to talk about Ukraine and stuff, I'm definitely up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got some domestic stuff as well. Maybe better after I do my interview, but interviewing a guy who's I don't want to give too much away because it's a good interview, but he's
well, then don't. We'll just tease it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good though. It's it revolves around the MAGA involvement with Russia and the connections.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Well, there was that. I watched a report today. Democracy Now! Had on those folks in Florida that were busted for being Russian influence peddlers, running candidates
about 3 months ago.
Yeah, the African Socialist Party group or whatever, and the defense this dude gave was what drove me to this whole like gullibility matrix concept, which is just like everything he said was couched in. It wasn't what they were charged with. It wasn't what they actually did, like taking funding specifically from a guy that they know full well is acting on behalf of the Russian government, telling them where to go and where to have their rallies, helping them coordinate these candidates to be spoilers, picking people, and then paying for those people, like funneling Russian money into this process illegally and then hiding it and doing all that. That's illegal. Just like Trump it isn't that he had the documents, it's that he tried to withhold them and keep them and lie about it and and engage in this scheme to get rid of the stuff. So this guy was doing this whole thing like other people have, they arrested us for being involved in elections. Yeah, that's why they did it. That's what it was. That's what they do now. They arrest people for being involved in elections. And the idea that this guy wants people to shut off their critical thinking and just immediately fall to something so baseline and dumb in the argument. You can go, they think that just because we're involved in international organizations for peace, that you can couch what you're saying in a way that doesn't sound so gullible, but it also will raise people's ears up a little bit because go, wait a minute, what do you mean international? What do you mean a global movement, like globalist movement? So they'll lose some of their right-wing support, and then and they'll lose any democratic support that they might have had when they admit who it was and who they are in these countries and which countries specifically versus the other countries. None of them, like are trustworthy organizations. So this idea that he's just like, shut off all your critical thinking and just think they busted us for reading a book or they busted us for writing a book, those kind of things. You're like, come on. There's got to be a line where you're just like, that's not enough. And I love Amy Goodman, but she's never broke through that part with the guy. She's like, oh, that's terrible that all you are is involved in elections. Yeah. And the same thing as all John Wayne Gacy was, all he was doing was digging under his house with some friends.
Thanks, Chicago. Yeah, no, it's great. And then there's the other issue of the fellow travelers where they kind of like, oh, it's just, Christianity and, everything's so corrupt in the West. Anyhow, why stop pretending and blah, blah, blah. Or why keep pretending?
Exactly.
Fellow travelers.
It's just so, like, it's just tiresome.
It's exhausting. It's exhausting.
You can say what you need to say and say it's unfair and say that you should be able to do these things. And you got to fight for it on the ground you're standing on, not on this artificial high ground that you allegedly make. Whoops. Did I lose?
All right, 10 seconds.
Okay.
Thanks.
Phil, it's weird. I lost you in my website. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. You're gone from the VDO, but you're still here. That's weird.
I don't know.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
You're in stealth mode.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
I'm very happy today. Like, some amazing guests. Everybody's trying their best to try and make up for the gap that is Johnny Million being away this weekend. He'll be back next week. Thank you again, Boston Brian. And Philip Ittner joins us right now. He's in Kiev. How are you, my friend?
Good.
Vladimir Putin.
I have Jewish friends, and they don't like you.
Yeah,
that's paraphrase.
Like you,
None
and you're not a real
Jewish
one.
Friends like
yeah, right. That's so weird. And there is a well, I mean, what's the latest in terms of where you are? Catch us up on your experience in Kiev, and then we'll address both chat room questions and the some of the major issues that have happened this week with the offensive, which seems to be in full swing. It is growing with intensity every day.
Yeah, kind of how we expected it. Everybody just be aware also, my internet connection has been acting up all week. So if I suddenly disappear, don't freak out.
Okay.
So things are okay here in Kiev. We had a really intense morning. Lots of incoming munitions, missiles and the like. Kinjals, apparently. It happened while there was Kiev, including South Africa, a member of the BRICS Association, which, kind of puts them in a bit of a bind.
Yeah.
And
real quick, the South African president said, I think it was Russian missile strikes don't contribute to peace, to restoring peace or whatever, which is the first of any kind of walk away. I thought the BRICS was rock solid and they were towing the line and that was the whole story. And then all of a sudden,
well, he also he did also toe the line a bit, though. Also at the same time,
yeah, he's going
because
to, but that's any move at all was amazing.
I mean, the press corps saw them going down into air raid shelters, and then the head of South Africa came out and said, I don't know. What are you talking about? An attack? I didn't know anything about an attack. Russian missiles? I don't know what you're talking about, sort of thing. And everybody was like, dude, we have you going into the air raid shelter.
Right.
So he had to kind of walk that back a little bit. But
that was the premise.
My good friend Vlad would never. Yeah, my good friend Vlad would never send a missile over while I'm here. Well, okay. So that was that this morning. That was pretty interesting. Yeah, as you mentioned, the offensive is continuing. They're making slow but steady advances. It's more like if an American football game, you're marching. They're marching the ball down the field. They're not doing any kind of long pass, passing games where they're trying to gain a bunch of yardage at any one time. No, it's get to the line of scrimmage, pick up the ball, take the ball 2 or 3 yards. Hold, reform, take another 2 or 3 yards, and you hope to get to the line. You hope to get to the 10-yard line and get another go, and then eventually you keep moving down the field that way, and you get into the end zone. That's kind of how my analogy for what the offensive is looking like, because I think a lot of people still are thinking that this is going to be these kind of things like we saw in Kherson or Kharkiv, where there's this strike force that just pierces through and goes for an objective. That analogy would be a passing play in football, but no, it's going to be more like moving down the field, steady, taking, and then and the Ukrainians aren't upset about that, because every bit of Ukrainian land that they recover is another village or town or city. Even when we get to that, maybe when we get to Mariupol and stuff, Melitopol or something. These are Ukrainians that have been living under Russian occupation. And, even if it's a small advancement and it only, liberates a village of, 700 people or something like that, that's 700 people who aren't living with Russian soldiers billeted in their town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fascinating to me. And, in relation to like the language around, the South African president, and he said this, that, it was not helpful at a joint press conference where he was trying to we need to tamp down both sides. He both-sided it, which is pretty normal language for, the fake peacenik movement that we have, and the those that sympathize with Russia, especially when they lean towards a ceasefire, because it gives Russia a chance to reload, which is the way that they look at it. And they've admitted to looking at it that way. It's the way all their media talks about it. It's the way Putin himself talks about it. But the fact that the South African president actually went over that line is, I do see movements in the armor around the messaging from supposedly vassal states in a way that we've never seen before. And he's the lightest example, but look at how Kazakhstan is acting. Look at how Dagestan is acting. Look at the Georgians as far as what they're doing. There's a recognition that Russia is headed towards its own self-created demise, and there may be an exit ramp. They seem to be seeing an exit ramp for themselves. Russia, by the way, I'm pretty sure Russia's GDP has now slipped below that of Japan's for the first time in, 50 years or 30 years. For all those, the sanctions did nothing stuff. Anyway, so there's, and you were on a roll, and I'm sorry I interrupted you on that part of it. Before
no, it's all right.
Yeah.
No, that's about it. Look, it's, you talk about exit ramps. It makes me think about what I'm sure you and Boston Brian were talking about, was like, if he just gave back the papers, if Russia would just leave, this would be over. This would end. But you just can't get it through your head that you're never going to win here. And they're like a dog with a bone. They can't let it go. And it's like, okay, well then we're going to have to do this the hard way. So the offensive is making progress. You make a very good point. It's getting harder and harder to defend Russia when they do things like blow up dams and send out rape squads, and all the stories of torture and stuff that we're going to hear as the offensive progresses and towns are liberated. We're going to hear about war crimes. I am. If I were a betting man, I'd put money on it. As grim as that is, but it's you can bet, you can expect it. There are going to be stories of Russian soldiers abusing Ukrainians.
Well, in that way, do you we'll talk about this on the other side. Of course, we're going to take questions from people in our chat room at twitch.tv/HalSparks or at infotainmentwars.com and on our Facebook page. Do you think? Well, I kind of want to save to the other side of it, but the South African president was taken to Bucha. They went as part of a delegation, and they went to Bucha. And I can't imagine that not having an impact, especially considering what South Africa has been through, and the Peace and Reconciliation Project and all the post-apartheid stuff that they've got to be aware of. This is the kind of stuff that happens. And how, their take on it is going to be affected by the fact that they're going to be looking at where these mass graves were. They're going to be talking to and seeing the victims themselves, the parents of the victims, the family members, people who are injured in this or attacked in this or are sexually assaulted.
Investigators.
Yes. They're going to meet the international investigators.
Who have the receipts, who have the evidence. They're collecting it right now. Yeah.
And who South Africa counts on for their own process, and other African nations also count on to come in and prove who was in the wrong in civil wars and other stuff. It's you take their word everywhere else, but here, is that how it's going to work? We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this with more Philip Bittner on Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Yeah, I'm I don't know how you walk away from that kind of stuff and just go, both sides are both sides. Really? You've just been to Russia. Did they take you to a site where the Ukrainians came across the border and engaged in this kind of stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I mean, he knows which side of his bread, which side his bread is buttered upon. So I mean, the BRICS. I don't know how successful. Well, anyhow,
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can't believe he can turn away from that. So it's
right.
Horrible.
Actually, it looks like we're coming back now. There was no break there.
Oh, all right. Hi. I guess we were chit-chatting the whole time, or did we actually have an ad?
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
One of the biggest changes, Philip Bittner's joining us from Kiev, and while we have here, one of the biggest changes I saw was this movement from, I think it wasn't van der Leyen, it was, anyways, the NATO head, and they asked Biden about this, about speeding up and removing the map for addition to NATO by Ukraine. And Biden, is being a little more tepid about it, but they're definitely moving in that direction. His quote was, "I think they've done everything related to demonstrating the ability to coordinate militarily, but there's a whole issue of, is their system secure? Is it non-corrupt? Does it meet all the standards every other nation in NATO does? I think it will. I think it can, but it's not automatic." So he might be against removing the map, but shortening it.
I agree. I agree. I love this country. I truly do. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. But
it's got
am
work
not
to do.
going to wear any rose-colored glasses. There's a lot of work to be done. There's currently right now there's a corruption scandal internally within within the government. They've got this probe into abuse of funds for the Ministry of Defense. Like $19,000. I mean, it might be the same kind of thing that we do with our black budgets and things like that. But there's a whole scandal going on. There's tensions between Klitschko and Zelensky over an incident where an air raid shelter was left locked, and so people couldn't get in, and somebody was killed. There are issues of contention here, and I don't think they are ready to join NATO quite yet, frankly. I think they need to clean up corruption. I think they need to. I think as good as their military is, and it is currently, and I agree with a lot of experts on this, it is the best military on the European continent, hands down. There's no rival. These guys are battle hardened. They're inventive. They're tactically sound. They're strategically sound. It's a formidable armed force, but it will take slotting into NATO. They're still very Soviet in many ways. Their structure, the equipment they use, things like that. So it's going to be a long road before they're actually part of NATO. But this talk of them joining NATO and looking upon it favorably is the exact right kind of dialogue that should be happening in public, because we need to start telling the Russians, there's going to come a day where the Ukrainians are part of the family of nations in Europe, and if you attack them again, you're attacking everybody. So an attack on one is an attack on all. So ultimately, the idea that Ukraine is going to be part of the European structure, both defensively and economically, is something that we should start talking about right now.
Yeah, there's a certain level of inevitability that everybody is working towards, because it's understood that all things being equal and not being attacked by Russia, it had already happened in terms of the EU connection. And then the NATO connection would have been something that they would have taken, patient time with had they never been attacked. But it would have eventually happened as well, just for their own safety, because of Russia's, even just the 2014 attack would be reasoning enough to do that. That said, by the way, the New York Times is reporting in their investigation that Russia deliberately blew up the Kakhovka Dam now. Their report specifically is saying the Russians hit it where they knew it was the weakest because they built it. Now, that said, Soviet engineers in the area that were Ukrainian, Russian, whatever, would obviously be aware of that too, one would think. And they would work on it because it's been in Ukraine for a long time. But that said, it makes way more sense.
Yeah, and it also, they were in possession of the dam at the time.
Right.
They're militarily, they were in possession of the dam at the time. So, to blow a dam, and John Sweeney and I discussed this in the interview that I posted, and I tried to fix it of its audio problems, but it's still a vlog worth checking out. Sweeney and I talked about this at a certain extent because there was a seismic monitoring that showed it was a single blast, and you cannot blow up a dam like that with a single piece of munition. It's not possible. You need to place a charge. Short of dropping like the mother of all bombs or something atomic, a nuclear weapon, something non-conventional. There's no weaponry that does it short of, a Moab. So the fact that there was a single seismic explosion monitored shows you that somebody planted something somewhere. And the argument that somehow Ukraine was able to sneak into the dam, because the New York Times article indicates that it was internal within the dam, which is its weakest point, because if you just put a mine at the base of the dam, you're exerting a lot of kinetic. You'll crack it, but you exert a lot of kinetic energy the other direction, because the dam itself will. But if you put it inside the dam, which only the Russians could do, your explosion is going to go both ways. It's going to go into the reservoir, and it's going to blast out into the open land where the water then eventually went flooding. There's no question that the Russians, but that the Russians did it. And I'm just so tired of even entertaining. Well, what about you? Oh, but we don't know. We don't know. Well, sure, we don't know for sure.
Well, this goes
But
to the whole
but we know. And they
this
did
goes to the Nord Stream pipeline concept as well,
Yep.
which is like in this particular case, if the biggest thing that I think as far as artillery that could do something like this would be a series of HIMARS attacks or something. They would have to be, if not one giant thing, it would have to be all of them hitting at once. And you would have nothing but footage of the arc of these missiles coming in nonstop, because they wouldn't all be perfect. You would hear them coming from a mile away. They would be warning people.
That's right.
They would it's absurd. So, and again, the idea that Ukraine has any kind of weapon that size, or could have snuck in with scuba gear and put in a charge that big, unbeknownst to the Russians, is almost more embarrassing to their military might than just admitting they blew it up themselves to flood the area so that they would make ground harder to traverse for the Ukrainian forces when the onslaught came. The tactical aspect of it makes total sense.
Damned.
Right, they don't care. And it's I mean, that part's fascinating. When so obviously they did that. And then in terms of Nord Stream, again, we've talked about this a bunch of times. They have all the sensor data. They have all the cameras. They have all the underwater cameras for the entire area. They have all the sensor data for where the exact second the eruption happened, where it happened, to the inch. And Russia's not releasing that information. Why? Why is the rest of the world responsible for their secrecy? Because if they released it and it really was us or Ukrainians or whoever...
we've talked about this before. Right. Well, we've talked about this before. You can't have it both ways if you're Russia. When you're trying to promote and sell the Nord Stream pipeline, you say, oh, it's the most secure, monitored stretch of undersea pipe that exists on the globe. And then when it goes boom, to go, we don't know whether that reveals anything or not. The fact that they're not revealing it or putting it out there in any significant way makes me very skeptical about what they know and what really happened there. And again, other idiots who, and let's not go by names, but there's Seymour Hersh, of course, but all the hangers on who went with Hersh's Substack thing, they have come to a conclusion, and they have accepted that conclusion because it plays into their narrative. I am not saying that the Russians did it. I am saying that it is suspicious that Gazprom has not released its data. I am furthermore saying I don't know. I don't know who did it. The Americans could have done it. The Brits could have done it. There any number. The Ukrainians, I mean, as far-fetched as it is, I suppose it's possible, but that's a high bar to get over for the Ukrainians. But where there's a will, there's a way. Or the Russians did. I don't know. What bothers me with the Tankies and the Seymour Hershes of the world is they don't either. But they are coming to a conclusion going, aha, you see, we have manipulated this war. We created this war. It plays into their narrative. And so they're going to just skip over the whole, well, what about an investigation? And I want to see proof. I don't want to hear speculation. And why hasn't Gazprom released its evidence? All that kind of stuff. No, that goes out the window. We've already decided that the West and the Americans wanted this war over Ukraine with the Russians, and they manipulated the whole thing to get the Germans on side, and it's all the dastardly Americans' fault.
And I would say to them that one of the reasons why you don't want innocent people in jail, why you don't want people railroaded on charges just to arrest somebody, one of the reasons, besides the fact that that innocent person is victimized and you have two victims in this situation, is because you allow the person that did it to walk free. And that seems to be the methodology in this situation. For those of them, you could say that they have a cozy relationship with Russia, or they're just protective about their own ideals, where they will just throw everything under the bus and they don't kind of care. They'll cozy up to the Kremlin talking points, because if to admit that they're wrong means admitting that they are wrong, and they won't ever do that. So in the case of Hersh or Brand or any of these other idiots, where I don't think they're being paid directly, they see their narrative being undermined, and so therefore they go and shore it up elsewhere. And in this particular case, I don't have a problem with you saying, I find this part hinky. I find this strange. Why? I had a source that told me this, and that contradicts what I'm seeing elsewhere. That's very different from saying the U.S. absolutely did this. A guy I know inside the intelligence community who's been feeding me stuff for years told me this. Meanwhile, everyone else is saying, look, all the Russians would have to do is release the video of the sensors from the sensors that they have all along the pipeline undersea, where you've seen pictures of the pipeline. That's what those are from. Why don't they have the footage of the second that it happened? If they promised the European Union, like you said, that this would be the most leak-proof one, if you get into this, Nord Stream 2 will be way more safe environmentally because the Europeans care a lot about environmental issues, even as they continue to use petroleum products. They want it to make sure it doesn't leak into the ocean, it doesn't cause it. Don't worry about it. We got sensors all over the place. We got cameras all over the place. The second there's a leak, we're on it. And then they're like, we were blind. We didn't see it happen. Nothing. No one looked. The guy walked away.
And
from
again,
the
to
station.
go back to go to Hirsch's thing, and I don't want to keep going back to Hirsch's thing, but Hirsch's things, the premise is that they went down there, an American SEAL team presumably went down there and set charges like 3 months before the naval exercise that was meant to kind of cover this. So you're telling me that there was a set explosive charge on the pipeline for 3 months and the Russians didn't do anything about it?
Right.
From if you believe that, you know, supporting Ukraine is their dastardly design, okay, fine, you know, but you know, there's still not proof. Just because they had the motive and the means and they benefited doesn't mean that the Yanks did it.
We have to take a break, but you and I wouldn't have a problem with their normal kind of suspicious USA bad nonsense if they weren't speaking in absolutes.
If it was a SEAL team, let's bring it out into the open. Let's absolutely show your receipts, show your proof, show your evidence, and then we will take it from there. But it's the presumption that it was because it fits your narrative that gets me going.
Right. We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Yeah. One second. Pulling some stuff up, and then chat room, I'll be grabbing some questions from you in a second. Yeah.
I've got a message here from Can't Stop Lying. I will pursue that interview idea. So, yeah, sure.
Fire in Moscow. This week there was another. I mean, there's always a big fire in Moscow, but this was apparently the largest one so far, which was really fascinating. And let's see. I'm trying to find the footage of it. Oh, that's fun. It's so funny when okay. I'm trying to find the footage of it, and I'm like, here's what I stumble across when I'm trying to find it. This is a garbage truck on fire in the middle of the highway in Russia, and the guy just dumps
everything.
Dumps the flaming trash onto the highway and drives away. Just drive forward. Just drive forward. Yeah, you know, as you do.
30 seconds.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chicago. They have a very different perception of civic responsibility.
So strange.
Yeah, it is. And Ukraine doesn't want to be like that anymore.
CRL 3232 has a really good question, and I was on my way there when we had to take a break too. So, and we'll talk about the tactical nukes in Belarus too, because he just bragged about that.
Sure,
Putin just bragged about that.
Yep.
Stand by.
Thank you. I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it. I'm going to have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together. This is the Hal Sparks Show. And a guitar note, and then progressive, and all. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Hey, Hal, Did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show. Wow. And the guitar note, and then progressive, and all that. Yeah, it's going to be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Welcome back to the show. Next week on my live stream, it looks like I'm going to have Dee Snider, formerly of Twisted Sister, and of course, many other projects. A lovely human being. Yeah, on the show. I've sung with him a couple times. I learned a thing or two. He's a good dude. He's a really good human being, and he's going to be on. We'll talk about his time in front of the Congress a little bit.
Part of my adolescence.
Oh yeah, he's great, and he's. You'll be happy to know. Yeah. You know that thing about where people are like, "Don't meet your heroes. It's always disappointing." I have not found that to be true at all. Like honest to God,
any guy that would actually go up on the hill. I remember when he went up on the hill.
Yeah, with Frank Zappa and John Denver. What a where's that?
That's
super
right.
group?
I remember that, and I remember him taking on who was the one who put the labels on the records? Tipper Gore. Was it? No. Was it Tipper Gore?
It was Al Gore's wife was in charge of the PMRC, the Parents Music Resource Council.
Yeah.
That
anybody
was
who would go up on the hill and test and give testimony on the hill. Good man. So cool. Well, good on you. That'll be fun.
And again, Gore was in many ways Clinton's Pence. Clinton was seen as a little freewheeling and a little Southern and a little not, conservative enough for some folks. Dude whose wife was, watching out for the children. And that's why they thought he'd be a good running mate. Seriously. So, quick question. One is, and Ed's 3D Tech, I'll get to you in 1 second. The question was, is Ukraine any more corrupt than Turkey in terms of NATO? And I think that's a great question.
It's a good point. It's a good question. It's different, but I would say that, and Erdogan has only made it worse. So I don't know if Ukraine is better or worse. I'd say up until recently, Ukraine, you could say without a doubt, was worse. But they're really making strong efforts, especially because they know that when the war is over, it's got to be worth it. It's got to count for something.
And there's a question whether Turkey's going the other direction. Does Turkey think ultimately that any of its survival goes the other direction? I doubt it. And I think, their economic picture in and of itself paints that picture. I think they're just in a desperate situation. They can't afford to lose any friends at all. And since NATO is locked in, they can afford to play footsie with Russia in a way that they wouldn't normally. But they're just they can't afford oil on the standard market with what the Saudis are doing. So they've got to cozy up and do a little bit of under the table stuff with Russia or they won't survive. That's the idea. That's where I think Erdogan is in particular. That said, the next question was from Ed's 3D Tech, would Russian ministry, the Ministry of Defense. So does it help them create space?
It helps them create space. It would push back Russian helicopters beyond the ATACMS, which would actually almost push them back on across the border. I mean, those ATACMS, you're already. I mean, so one of the major fights is around Zaporozhye. Zaporozhye, if you push east and you get across the river, you're already pretty much with ATACMS if they had them. Able to hit anything on Ukrainian soil, 1991 border soil, and that would include Donbass. So, yeah, it would absolutely push back their attack helicopters, which would be a really good thing. Give them ATACMS. Give them ATACMS.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous that we haven't done it already. Anyhow, just give them everything on.
And then there was a what was the other question besides family? Coretta wants to know, besides family, what do you miss most about the U.S. right now?
Getting
and Boss Brian will hook you up with Phil. I'll take care of it.
That would be great. I mean, it's of course there are little things, or well, not so little, but there are things that you can well imagine, like food and restaurants, and my A1 steak sauce, which you can't get here, and I love on a steak. I know some people think that's blasphemy, but I do. Silly little things like that. Bigger picture, I miss my life that I had, that I had made plans, and I was setting up a production company, and I was getting out of, big corporate TV news. I wasn't go knocking on CBS or NBC or ABC's door or CNN, what have you. I was going to strike out on my own with a production company, and I'm still going to do that. But the fact that I have to put it on hold because of this, because of promises I made to people here, which I'm holding myself accountable to, it's just gonna have to wait.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. Let's see, where are we? We're good on. Okay. I want to make sure I didn't miss the other question I had up there. There you go. Oh yeah, there we go. Based on your current understanding, if you had your feet to the fire, which would you say the current counteroffensive? Which way would you say the current counteroffensive seems to be going? Yeah, like.
If you really push me on it, I would say east. I think the going for Mariupol from Zaporizhia, that's the one that you really want to succeed. Going south, that's another option because of the flooding. That gets a little bit more tricky, but the whole thing is trying to break the land bridge from Russia to Crimea, and so you're either going to, the
I think
shortest distance is
success-wise too. I think also success-wise.
What is being more successful right now? I think east. I think also east. I mean, Bakhmut. There's some advances being made there. So I think the direct push from Ukraine towards the sea, as opposed to down towards the south to cut off the land bridge, is the more likely to be successful. But we're just going to have to wait and see. It's very frustrating, but it's operational security takes precedence.
Sure. Apparently it's breaking. Ukraine has asked the FATF to declare Russia a state sponsor of terrorism, and European Parliament has done. Well, they've already done so. So I think they're asking other organizations to follow up. Yeah, the Federation. Is it the Federation of African Nations? Hold on one second. There it is.
Well, that would make sense given the delegation was here now.
The FATF. Yeah.
Well, because they are. They are state sponsors of terrorism.
Yes.
100%.
Right.
So I mean, it's exhibited here for everybody to see. But in addition to that, they undermine democracies. They do assassinations globally. They attack. They do information warfare, which is a different kind of terrorism, but it's still twisting people's minds and creating terror through that kind of endeavor. They are a state sponsor of terrorism, 100%. And so everybody should be designating them. I mean, I'd like to see it happen in the UN. They shouldn't even be on the Security Council, frankly. And
that I think is the weirdest part. And and the U.S. has started talking about reforming how people are chosen for the Security Council and to head the Security Council after that dust up the fact that it became Russia's turn automatically to do it, even though they were engaged in an offensive war against one of their neighbors, which seems a little counterintuitive. You know what I mean? You could make an argument that, past administrations like the Bush administration would want it, would want that rule not to be engaged because we wouldn't have been able to do it while we were in Iraq. And I would argue that when we did a preemptive attack on Iraq, we shouldn't have run during the time we were there. Gives you impetus to not be there if it's a war of aggression. That said, if your allies and the other countries there say no, they had to do this and we agree with it, they could vote specifically to say you should be allowed to do it. And that means at least people are having a say in this, as opposed to this like Wheel of Fortune idiocy, where they just spin it and whoever it lands on, no matter what they're up to, you get to run things for a while. It just seems goofy, especially when it comes to like the fact that the UN Security Council, those folks, they don't get to see all of every nation's intel, but they get to see most of it. And that's one of the reasons why, like, Russia had 2 spots where they felt like, oh, Russia's making a comeback. Did you notice how the first time they did it, it was right around the attack. It was February of 2022. And then the next time, they're like, oh, Russia's finally pushing back, like 3 weeks after they were running the UN Security Council for a little while, because they got access to the materials and satellites and all that kind of stuff that they didn't have in between. It's just so stupid. Like, the crucial one-to-one briefings that are different. So it was odd. I find that very strange. So we got to take a break. When we come back, more of your questions for Philip Ittner. This is the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's a good point. Miss Anonymous in the chat says the USSR no longer exists, so they should no longer occupy a seat. I agree. The transfer immediately from USSR to Russia was a part of that like naive reconciliation aspect that the West engaged in. And again, if we were truly an imperialist nation, we wouldn't have done that. We would have taken over Russia when it was down and pushed them off and made them come to our begging bowl to get back in the UN or back in charge of that stuff. But we didn't. We gave them every benefit of the doubt. Everywhere. Ugh.
I was thinking about that earlier in the day. Actually, something related to that is that there's this perception globally. I think. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
We coming back?
Nope, we're good.
No. Is this misperception really that Russia and the Soviet Union were one and the same? In the Soviet Union, Ukraine was one of the largest republics and a republic that carried a lot of weight and did a lot of the fighting in World War II, a lot of the fighting in Afghanistan, made the food, participated, was a major part of the Union. And, all of Russia's victories in the 20th century were because it was part of the Soviet Union. And that doesn't exist anymore. And so Russia is not as formidable as the USSR was. And the sooner we start to realize that, the better.
Yeah. Right. Same thing with China. And arguably effectively the 5 nations that became China, that was at a different time in human history too. The idea that they were the power, what it meant to be a powerhouse at that time is very different from what it means to be a powerhouse now. The same thing is true of Russia and the USSR, especially going into the future, man. We're information technology based as a species. Thank you.
I am happy, you are happy, let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky, let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. 'Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling, let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning, I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning, I hope that you like cereal.
Yay! Yeah. So there's so much to this, Phil, where we do have a hard time finding good news that doesn't involve a certain amount of Schadenfreude. That doesn't involve the fact that, Trump got indicted this week and he's in panic and hey, the money that he made from the boost in people donating is already spent. It didn't last 72 hours. It's gone. And arguably it never made it even to his attorneys. So it's just vapor. And to any maggots who are watching the show, and I know we have a few, I don't know why you're here. You should be at donaldjtrump.com. praying and giving money. I don't know why you still have any money in your bank account. What if you really care and America's going to die without them? Do you even MAGA, bro? So, are there things like what would you see is, and obviously the offensive is going on and it's very tough time for Ukraine, and it's going to be, and it's a very tough time for the Russians that are sent there. I saw a video of a conscript who, they were questioning who, he was like, this will get me out of jail early, and I was there on a trumped up charge anyways, so I was hoping that, I wouldn't have to do any actual fighting, and I'd get out here, and then I found myself, and he's like, it's a sad story, and the Ukrainians that are talking to him are like, this is sad. This is just like, you shouldn't have to be here.
Yeah.
We're not your enemy. And so it was actually very heartwarming to see.
And also there are all sorts of stories of like Russian soldiers saying, please don't send us back, because if you do a prisoner exchange and we get sent back, they'll shoot us.
Yes, right.
Because we got captured. We do not send us back. And we are hearing a lot of those kind of stories of Russian soldiers saying, we don't want to be in a prisoner exchange because they'll shoot us. And they probably will. If there is there are not a lot of happy ending stories. It's been a pretty miserable week. But did you see just today the video released of Prigozhin eating his swallowing his pride, eating crow, and going and submitting his paperwork to place the Wagner group, the PCM, or was it PMC, Personal Military Corporation? Anyhow, there's a new law in Russia forcing them all to come under the umbrella of the Ministry of Defense, and begrudgingly Prigozhin had to do it. And there's a funny little video to watch with him with his head hanging low, having to go to I think it's a St. Petersburg registration office and submit his paperwork to put Wagner Group under the control of Shoigu. He probably didn't like that very much. So there's a little bit of schadenfreude, but there's a happy ending for you.
Yeah, I think that works. Whatever. I think.
And I can give you a happy ending. I can give you another happy ending. Because you want to look at the silver linings of every cloud. So Putin moving nukes into Belarus, lots of consternation about that. But it's a storm in a teacup. I know we don't want to take nukes lightly, but it's an indication to me, and also the conflict that is growing between Lukashenko and Putin about who actually controls those nukes is interesting to me. But what the reason why I say there's a silver lining is because he's clearly he's having to do things like that because he knows he's losing, and it is still saber rattling. I'm sorry, but the day that Russia uses a nuclear weapon is the last day that Russia is effective as a military force. Because the second they use a nuke anywhere in the world, unless they go full bore,
everybody's out. Right.
Unless they go full bore, they are the bad guys. And nobody's going to defend them. And NATO will go, we're taking all your toys away and done, enough. So they're putting the nukes on my opinion is they're putting the nukes on Belarus soil to scare us. They will not use nukes. I still feel pretty strongly about that, because they know that what happens after you use a nuke, because you make a military decision not with the idea of this is what this military operation is going to achieve, but will then happen. What is the likely response from the enemy? That being the West. And the West, if Russia decides to use a nuke or a limited nuclear exchange, and if there are any of us still around standing, in other words, that's it. It's done. Russia's military will be devastated, and they know it. So I still can't believe that they wouldn't use nukes. But look, you don't want to test them, do you? You don't. You got to stand up to a bully. But is he completely crazy and really? I don't know. But I'm not freaked out by the Belarus deployment. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is meant to scare people on a on a scale that also gives the tankies that we talk about a lot something to talk about. Oh, now you've done it. Now America's done it. Oh, now they've done it. Now Russia's putting tactical nukes in in Belarus. This is it. This is and this is their fault. They shouldn't have started this because this is we made them do this, which is just ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry, we made them lose a war they thought they would win in 6 days. Really? That's the justification for them putting tactical nukes in and blowing up their own dam. I gotta say, it's got to be getting harder and harder. Obviously, for the people who are all in, like Ritter and that crowd, it's they don't really care. They're just they're selling the line and that's all. But anybody who's got at least a toe in the pool of sanity at this point has got to be just like, it's got to be getting harder and harder and harder every damn time to just start to sell this crap. It's just amazing to me.
And it's not going to last forever. And and in addition to that, they're going to keep losing territory. There's a lot of talk about the defenses that Russia has put in, and some of them are formidable. I got a good buddy of mine here who studies this very closely. Some of them are very strong defensive positions, but there's also territory that can be used to maneuver around those defenses. So it's not going to stop the Ukrainians.
Right.
They're going to keep, and I think, I personally, not being a soldier but being a war correspondent for a quarter of a century, I think this might be again another example of the exceptional military ability of Ukraine's forces. General Zaluzhny and General Syrskyi are both very cunning military leaders, and it's better to do it this way: slow, steady, bit by bit by bit, yard by yard down the field until you get to the end zone. This is a running game, and it is all about getting 2 yards here, 5 yards there, get to that 10-yard mark, then pick up the ball, start again, 5 yards.
Effectively, what they're also pushing back against is the entrenched aspect of the Russians dug in. They invaded quickly, dug in, built trenches. So you're going to have to move slowly across land with mines on it, and one that's been trenched anyways. So what you're going to want to do is get to the other side of those trenches at a measured pace and evenly. Once you clear those, the chances of the lines behind there being mined in any significant way or reinforcement nobody digs trenches 10 miles behind their other trench unless they think they're going to have to fall back at some point. And since the Russians have been, like, they run on macho, I don't see them doing it anytime soon. I don't see that. Why would they build another line of trenches behind their trenches unless they're like, we might need a place to go? Because they did this all at once. They did this in a lightning attack, essentially, on that part of the country. We're out of time, and I want to say, Phil, thank you so much for being here. We'll put you in touch with Boston Brian. I look forward to what you guys come up with.
Yeah, we'd love to.
We'll make that happen.
Sure.
And everybody else, don't forget to like, subscribe, support the show. Subscribe to Phil's YouTube channel. Absolutely. Subscribe to YouTube, Phil's YouTube channel. And, of course, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show in any way that you can. And if you can't, I'll see you next Saturday anyways. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, good show.
Absolutely. And then, whoops, Phil, there you go. All right. Thanks so much, brother.
Streaming? Are you still streaming, or are we completely off?
I'm halfway off. It's just on me right now because I lost you in that feed page, and I'm worried that if I reload the page, you will vanish.
Right,
so cheers and thank you, sir.
Is there? But can people hear us? Is what I'm trying to get.
Yes,
at.
They can hear us. Yes, right. They can hear you.
Oh, okay. Then I'm going to keep my interview guest a secret.
Good. Okay,
all right,
cool.
guys.
I'll talk to you later. I'll see you on Wednesday.
Talk to you soon. See you on Wednesday.
Thanks so much.
Take care.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And thanks so much, chat room. Hold on. I'll leave this one. There we go. And we'll get out of that guy. And there we go. And chat room, you guys are awesome. Let me get you guys back in here in 1 second so I can say a proper goodbye. There you are. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the happy Father's Day. It's very nice. My boy is here with me, so it feels extra super good that he's here. So thanks. It's going to be good. It's going to be a nice weekend. Anyways, oh yeah, and one more thing. My QNut roommate told me yesterday that Russia Putin is winning. I asked what is being won. He played that. What do you mean? I simply said he because he's still fighting it after 15 months. See, the whole goal was to kill 250,000 of his own men, and then the real plan starts. Cameron ended. Cameron ended. All right. Yeah, his name is Camden. Anyways, that I just have to say for the record, good show today. Thanks, Boston Brian. Thanks, Phil. Thank you guys for being here. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, all that stuff. Comments and stuff and all the things that they tell you in YouTube school. Do that stuff. Help us. Happy Condom Broke Day. That's not my birthday. Oh, I see. That's not even his birthday. What? I simmer down. This might come as a shock, but some of us want kids. And more kids at that. Anyways, much love to you guys. Take care of yourself and take care of somebody else. And I will see you on, let's see. Oh,